Oh my god, you ride a motorcycle? You must be so cool.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another video. I just got done riding the Ibex 450 out in Jefferson National Forest, and we hit the magical 600-mile break-in. So it's time to replace this old break-in oil and put in some brand new 5100 Motul. It's a 10W40, and we'll put on our new CFMoto oil filter because they're currently on the market. I don't see anybody that claims that they have anything that fits the CFMoto officially yet. So we're sticking with the stock oil filter. And then I've got a couple more parts just right over here off screen. We've got some crash bars and we've got some extra things we're going to be putting on this bike to spice up the looks and also the functionality. So let's get into the video and we'll warm this bad boy up. I should probably vent the garage. Smart. We're not that sad. All right, here we go. Now, all you really need for this oil change is going to be a 17mm socket. I have an oil wrench just because it's a tight space and the exhaust is hot, so I'm going to be using that. The oil of your choice, I'm using the Motul 5100 10W40, which is the weight that it recommends. And then it has the CFMoto filter. That right there is the part number if you're interested, but it's easy to look up online. I guess you could just scan that QR code maybe. So that's all we need for that. We need a place to catch the oil, which I have here, and some shop rags. I'm going to be doing the lazy way. So I have the new CFMoto heavier duty bash plate on this bike, and to technically change the oil the right way, you would need to drop the stock skid plate or this skid plate, but there's enough room in there that you can put some rags down in the bottom to catch residual oil as it falls and just clean it out with some brake clean or some degreaser. And then the drain plug is right on the side, so I'm just going to do it the lazy way. If we look inside the manual, you see it says when changing the oil filter, 2.5 liters. That's nice and simple. And it suggests the 10W40. One quick thing to say, do not use regular automotive oil. You could do it and maybe get away with it, but these oils go through extremely difficult high temperature engines that have high compression, that have all kinds of different needs than a normal standard engine out of a car. So you want to make sure that you use a motorcycle designed oil. If you go to your local Advanced Auto Parts and you do want to do it that way, they sell motorcycle oil, but better to go to a real motorcycle dealer and get everything there, because not only is it the grade of the oil for the components, but it's also the grade of the oil for a wet clutch, which this bike has. So that's important to know. All right, I'm going to try to do this one-handed. Can't be that hard. Someone else could do it with no hands. Little oil drain plug right down there. Nice long drain plug. There we go. Got a little bit of particulate on the magnetic plug, which is fine because we're breaking this in. Engine oil is nice and warm. Great. So we're just going to let that sit for a little while, and then we'll take off the oil filter. While that drains, I'm going to take some rags. Like I said, I'm being lazy. We're going to stuff these down in here just to catch some oil. Keep it away from the exhaust. I mean, the exhaust is cool enough, it shouldn't burn anything at this point. I'm going to stuff these rags right down in here just to kind of catch any lingering oil. And then we'll take our wrench. Dang, that booger's on there pretty tight. It doesn't need to be quite that tight. There we go. Nice, super hot exhaust right there on the left side of your screen. So would it be easier to take the skid plate off? Yeah. Would it be safer? Oh yeah. We're not gonna do it. We're not gonna do it, man. All right, I gotta set you down to get this oil filter out of this opening here. All right, oil filter is out. And we're getting pretty close to being done draining there. I'm going to let it drain a lot longer than normal just because it is break-in oil and I'm putting brand new stuff in there. All right, clean all this debris out of the plug. Definitely some metal and bits and things in there, but that's why we break these in. There we go. Nice and clean. And then we'll just do everything in reverse. There is a little copper crush washer here. People are going to say reuse it or don't reuse them, but go for it, reuse it. And if you want, you can go to your auto parts store and buy a copper washer, or you can go buy the very specific one from CFMoto because you got to be CFMoto or die. I'm not that guy. All right, now that we got that threaded most of the way in, we're going to tighten it up a little bit. These are aluminum engines, so you don't want to over tighten these. This does not need to be torque spec to keep an engine from falling apart. You're just holding oil in. So maybe between 11, 14 pounds of torque, but we're just going to go by feel because that's how most of us are probably going to do it. Perfect. That was probably 14 and a half, but I'm excessive. Okay, we got our brand new CFMoto oil filter. Always good if it comes in some plastic like that, just to help keep some debris and dust from transport out. Look at that. We are official CFMoto. It is pouring down rain out there. We're going to take a little bit of oil on our finger here. Just wipe it around that O-ring so it doesn't bind when we put it back on the bike. And we spin that bad boy back on. Just hand tight, nothing crazy. Do it without burning my hand. All right. Oil filter is on. Let's see if our experiment with these rags worked. Yeah, pretty clean down there, I would say, wouldn't you? All right, I'm going to keep using that plan because nobody wants to take off a friggin' skid plate every single time they change their oil, especially if you ride a lot because that's going to be all the time. And I'm pretty sure when you put crash bars on this thing, the crash bars on the bottom also mount to where the skid plate goes. So that's just too much work for a guy like me. So here we are over on the fill side, on the right side of the bike. We're just going to take this cap off, and you'll notice it doesn't have a dipstick like the old school bikes. It has a sight glass window down here. And it's important to remember when you're filling these up and you've changed an oil filter, when you go to the sight window and you think you've overfilled it when you put in the recommended amount, you didn't. All you have to do is start the bike once you get the sufficient amount of oil in there. If you're worried about overfilling it, you can put in maybe 2.25 liters or 2 liters. Let the engine suck up that oil into the oil filter, turn the bike off, let it rest, and then check the oil again to make sure that you have the level. Also, a good thing to know is when you check level, the bike needs to be level. So forward to back level and side to side level. So basically just sitting straight up and down like you're on the bike in a flat parking lot. And that will give you the true oil levels. Now, Motul has these really, really cool little pull-out spouts that help it pour, and I was dumb and I poked a hole in the side of it as I was trying to get the lifting part up, the little plastic piece that helps pull that up, and I punched a hole in the collapsible piece. So we're just going to pour it in like this. Oh, one-handed, y'all. This is for you. All right, this is a 4-liter container, and we are going to put in 2.5. All right, and we're about 2.5 liters in right there. So I'm going to just go ahead and stop. Cap back on. All right, we are going to tip the bike upright. And we're going to see oil fill up that whole thing. You'll see how it changed color. And it went down. Now there's marks on the side here, there and there, and there and there. And that is basically, as long as your oil's between those marks when the oil filter's primed and the engine is off, you are good to go. Notice it's empty right now because the side stand and it's leaned over, but when we bring it back, that's more or less straight up and down. So I probably under added, but let's start the bike just for a minute. We ain't opening the garage for this one. All right, let's do our tip test again, see where our oil is. It's probably going to be out of picture or low. Okay. So it's a little bit low. If I come over this way just a bit more, you'll see it's coming back up into view. So we're just going to add a little bit more. And according to our oil, we're a little bit under on what it recommends. So that makes sense. So we'll take this back off and just a splash. So that's pretty good. I'm going to add just a bit more. It is exact. I mean, coming from the manufacturer, you do exactly what they say, but sometimes you do got to add just a little bit of extra oil. It's not the end of the world. I don't adhere too tightly to the exact amount you've put in. Just make sure that your oil filter is primed and that you've drained all the old oil out before you put in the new oil, and fill when the bike is again in that upright position. Fill until that oil is pretty much right between the two windows. You don't really need to go too high. Definitely don't want to be too low. More is safer than none. So just make sure that you do that. That is basically right up and down. It's starting to be on its tipping point. So perfect. We're going to leave it just like that. And there you have it. That is how you do an oil change on a CFMoto Ibex 450 or a 450 MT if you're not in the United States. Pretty simple, like most any other ones. Just drain your oil, fill it, change the filter. But you saw how I did it without taking the skid plate off. That's personal preference, probably not the manufacturer recommendation, but nonetheless, that's what we did today. So follow along. We're going to keep posting more videos about this bike. This is not in its final form. So we are going to be jumping into the accessory portion of this build. This is going to be a super awesome bike. I'm excited for what we're going to add to it. You already might have an idea of what's sitting right over here next to me, but I've got more stuff coming tomorrow, and we are going to do a little mini build series on this bike. And as money comes in from work and stuff, I'll be able to do more things to this bike that I can't quite do just yet. But stay tuned because I think you're going to like that part.